I don't know what to say after the session we've just been through, but perhaps, Kevin, I have to hand it to you. This new leadership development program really displays bold thinking. And I made another observation about Luca. It seems like he has missed out on quite a lot of opportunities for collective know-how there, working with his wife. I'm very pleased to be here today. It's a great honor to be able to talk to you and to stand here in front of ITT in the process of a culture journey. And you kindly asked me to share with you what I have learned. I was very pleased when Luca, he invited me to talk. And I came down and we started talking about bold thinking. And I think, wow, excellent. Bold thinking, you say you want to row in a rowing boat across the Atlantic. That's pretty bold thinking. And then Luca says, and we also have collective know-how, and we would like you to talk about collective know-how. And I'm going like, fine. So I displayed some agility, as Denise said, and I said, sure, I can do that. And then I went away and I thought, okay, but how does this apply? And I only came up with the answer today in the room, actually. So this is also, we solve things in motion on the fly. And this is that I think when you do bold thinking, quite often you need collective know-how to make it happen. And when you come out with bold thinking ideas, you will get a lot of pushback. So you need a breakthrough before the collective know-how can kick in and before you can really succeed with your bold thinking. So this I will hope to demonstrate to you with my little story here, how my bold thinking, or just being very dumb, turned into something which means that you're willing to sit there looking at me talking to you today. So what I'm wanting to talk to you about is a different kind of culture journey. When I was 16 years old, I was very lucky. I won a scholarship to go to an international school in Wales. It's called the United World College of the Atlantic. And the sole purpose of this school is to promote international understanding. So this was founded in the Cold War, when you couldn't travel, you didn't have internet and so forth. And the idea was, and it's coined by Kurt Hahn, a great educator, who also came up with the Steiner schools. How can there be peace in the world without people understanding each other? And how can this be if they don't know each other? And then some money man, Eric Hurst out of California, I think it was, he came together, and also Lord Mountbatten in England, they came together, and they founded this school. And the idea is you had as many nationalities together as possible in a remote location, and you had to get on. So some say this is the place you go. You go and you don't know a certain nationality, but you don't like it, that nationality, for whatever prejudice you have, and you leave knowing why. Or you go and your prejudice is proven wrong. So I can shamelessly, fearlessly, with a good amount of fear, admit that you have a lot of things and you have a lot of surprises. People are like this is the stereotype you hear in the press, this is the stereotype you have in your head, but things turned out differently. And that is part of collective know-how. You need to be open-minded. Things may not be exactly how you expect or how you have heard, but if you keep an open mind, anything is possible. So, fast forward, I got a scholarship there. I started to select my subjects, and when I had selected my subjects, I found out I could have studied all this in Denmark. I am now at an international school. I should do something different. I should study something I couldn't study in Denmark. So I went down the list. A, B, C, Chinese studies, fantastic. I don't know anything about China. I'll do Chinese studies. And that's how, by scientific approach, I got interested in China. China's culture, China's history. Fantastic. It's great you go to a class and you double your knowledge every time. At that school, there was one person from the People's Republic of China. And if you think you have a stereotype of a communist, he walked around with his what's it called? A mug, a metal mug you see on the films. You know, that's what the Chinese had at the time. And he was just a stereotype of this. And now he's a fat guy, a few girlfriends, and a big business tycoon. But you could not have seen this skinny guy here walking around with his tin mug, transforming like he did in China. I was very grateful that I had this opportunity. Someone had given me a scholarship to go to this school. It totally transformed my life and how I looked on the world and how I looked on people around me. When I was a kid, I always wanted to do an adventure, and I always wanted to sail around the world. And one time when I was in Hong Kong, I had an opportunity to go on one of the round-the-world race boats. You have 3 Volvo Ocean Race. You have the Clipper Challenge, and you had the Global Challenge. And they're all races, 2 for amateurs. I went on the Global Challenge boat down to Singapore and thinking, this is going to be a good testing ground. 10 days at sea, blue water sailing, fantastic. They will whet my appetite. I'll sail around the world afterwards. So I was on this boat, and we had no wind. So you can imagine you're on a race boat with no wind for 10 days, and you have to engine. This is really not a pleasant experience. And one day, the skipper, he comes on deck, and I'm lying there. It's tropical. It's very hot. And he goes, Christian, you're bored out of your mind. You should do this, and you'll never be bored. And he gave me this flyer, and it said, Transatlantic rowing race. And I go, wow. I'd never rowed in my life. But I look at that flyer, and I go, I got to do this. Right? And then I go, and how difficult can it be? I just need to find a rowing partner, build a boat, raise some money, and then we go across the Atlantic. So the race I signed up for, I have to see if I can operate this. Next, from that, was what's called the world's toughest rowing race. And it was in 2001, and you start, it's really just a little island hopping. You start in Tenerife, then you go 3,000 nautical miles, 5,000 kilometers across the Atlantic Ocean. You end up in Barbados. And what was interesting is one boat rowed by 2 people for 3,000 nautical miles. And more people have climbed Mount Everest than rowed an ocean. So this was interesting. And I started looking into the history of ocean rowing. And actually the first people to row across an ocean were 2 Norwegians in 1896. Then no one did it again until 1966. 2 boats set out, and 1 boat perished at sea. And then little happened until 1997, when the first transatlantic rowing race was made. And at this point in time, a transatlantic rowing race, the statistics were half of the people who had set out to row an ocean had died. Okay? Then you have the first transatlantic rowing race, and the statistics improved tremendously. Now it's only 10% of everybody who has set out to row an ocean have survived, or have died. So 90% survival rate. And now we were going to have another race, and I thought, not too bad, we can do this. So I signed up, and I set some goals. I wanted this to be value-driven. And the goals I set at the time I was living in Hong Kong. And I said, I'm going to find a mainland Chinese rowing partner and row with him, because no one will believe this is possible. And also, I'd already been working in China quite a lot there. And what I know is, and you probably know as well, is working cross-cultural is difficult. And one of the big things, China was up and coming back then, still is, but now it's gone from domestic growth and now it's a superpower. So now we'll see China go international. But what I could see there is everybody wanted to be in China. No one could make it work. It was very difficult for foreigners to work with the Chinese. So I thought, we will make the ultimate joint venture. Here we have more than just going bankrupt at stake. Here we have our lives at stake. We don't succeed, we perish. And I thought, we will survive, and it will be a good kind of story and also a showcase for other people to say, no, you can work cross-culturally. It might be difficult, but you can do it. Second one we wanted to do, exactly. As long as you're willing to trust, you can work cross-culturally and you can succeed. Anything is possible. And I wanted to raise some scholarships for PRC students so they could go to Atlantic College. I wanted to give something back to my alma mater. And at that point in time, this is before you had all these billionaires coming out of China. China was not really rich, so the idea of giving money to charity was foreign. Now you have a lot of philanthropists, very wealthy people in China, but at that time, no one gave money. They kept it for themselves. So I wanted to use this idea that through sports, you can connect the charity to it and you can help others. China at that time, people, athletes, they went to do competition to make money for themselves or for their province. And of course, if we were going to do this, my Chinese rowing partner and I, we had to be friends at the end. Otherwise, it would kind of be a hollow idea. And then we had to finish in 56 days. And this, again, you'll appreciate this as engineer, another scientific approach. Because you get asked by the press, so how long will it take you? I don't know. They don't want to hear that. So I said, it'll take 56 days. And it was very logical, because the race starts on October 7th, and my girlfriend's 30th birthday was on the 3rd of December. And in between that, you have 56 days. And I didn't want to be late, so I said 56 days. And then we had to finish top 10. Again, another thing. There were 32 boats at the start, and we said we'll finish top 10 because, well, you have to say something, and it has to be good. But I never rowed before, but I thought, okay, we'll say that. So the boat then is, this is how it actually looked like. It was built in a very small shipyard in southern China. So what you see here, China, after building this, went on to become the world's largest shipbuilding nation. This is where it all started. They built this. So the boat is very simple. It's self-righting. Back down at the back there, you sleep. And everywhere else, underneath the seats in front, you have food. Because you need a lot of food to get across the Atlantic. And you see we have some solar panels there at the back, and a radar reflector there. And then it's really just a matter of rowing. Now, the other thing, and I thought this is going to be really easy. I need to find a Chinese rowing partner. And I went to the CCTV5 channel. This is a China sports channel. It's watched by maybe 50 million people when it airs. And I said to them, look, guys, here's my project. This is what I'm going to do. And they went, okay. I said, no, it's a very good project, and it has a lot of good values in it. Please report on it. And one of the producers said, okay, we'll do it, Christian. So they reported on this, and they said, Danish guy rowing across the Atlantic, looking for a rowing partner, everything paid. You just need to be willing to go. And this aired, and I was very excited. Well, I mean, first to be on Chinese television, and secondly, I thought, but I also had a lot of, I was a bit intimidated because I thought, how will I select? All these applicants, how will I select? And I got 2. And one was my old friend from People's University, Li Jie, who had seen me on television, and he just wanted to say hi because we had lost contact. And the other one was a guy who actually, he sent me a CV and it was good, and Marbin, and I called him and I say, okay, good. And he goes, Christian, very interesting. How big is the engine? I said, there's no engine. And he goes, no, how big is the engine? I go, no, there's no engine. It's rowing. Sorry, not for me. Then I went to the China Rowing Association, and they said, sorry, we can't give you any of our athletes because all our athletes are professionally trained. They need to go and row in the Olympics and so forth and win medals for the country. But we have this one guy who is China's best-known adventurer at the time, Zhang Jian. And he swam across the Bohai Strait in northern China. That's 150 kilometers. This guy, he can also row across an ocean. So I go and meet Zhang Jian. He's a small guy, teacher at the Beijing University. He looks like a buoy swimming around in the ocean. That's why he can do all of this. He's also from the English Channel, by the way. He's a very cool guy. And he said, no, Christian, sorry, I'm preparing to swim at that time, actually, the English Channel. So I have no time, no interest in doing this. But I have this guy, Sun Haibin. He's very good. He can do it with you. So I spoke to Sun Haibin. I met him, and he had some good credentials. Student at the sports university, triathlon, triathlete. So PLA, People's Liberation Army. These guys are tough, right? And he went into what's called Bai team number 81, which is Mao's. That was Mao's private army. So this is the elite of the elite. So he was in there. He was a very good guy, trained killer. But then he also had a few things that worked against him, perhaps. But I think what is really important is, this was the kind of guy he was, right? And if you looked at that, okay, I had been out to sea. I knew I got seasick. I had never rowed before. So actually, we weren't that far off being equal partners. So we set about to do this. And just to kind of give you an idea about how committed he was without knowing what he was entering into, I said, Sun Haibin, we will run into storms. There'll be big waves. It'll be wet. We'll be scared. Won't you be scared? And he goes, nope. I said, why not? I can swim. Anyway, we got the project going, and safety, of course, is key when you go and do a thing like this, because it sounds crazy. Most people think you are crazy, but there's actually a lot easier ways to commit suicide, and also cheaper than to do this. So a lot of these things that you hear about sound very, very dangerous, but actually when you dissect it, it's not. So if you cover your risks, you go and you look into it, you will find out the things that the masses think perhaps, this is dangerous, you will die. You can manage the risk and you can make it happen. But you will often have to go against the grain of how people think. I had people come up to me when we started doing this, because one of the big things is you think this for yourself. I'm going to row across an ocean. But when you go out and you tell everybody, okay, I'm going to quit my job, I'm going to row across an ocean. Then you put it out there. And then you're committed, because your failure is public. And so is your success. But your failure is public. And I tell you, when you do this, you attract more negative feedback than positive feedback, in my experience. Because I think you have probably in the room here, we probably have about 150 people who would like to row an ocean. Maybe not, but there'll be some people who like to row an ocean. But there's also a lot of people who won't, but wish they could, and but can't quit the job, or whatever it can be. And many people's first reaction to something strange is negative. And then you have to live through that. I've had people come up to me in a bar and say, "You will die. You can't row across an ocean." I go, "Thank you very much." But you can't really use that for a lot, but you have to have the perseverance. And then, when you persevere, people can see you're not fake, you have the integrity to do this, you're committed. And then people start coming out of the woodwork, and they will support you. So I came with this thing here. I didn't know where to build my boat. I didn't know where to find my rowing partner. I didn't know a lot. I didn't know how to build the boat. I didn't know how to equip the boat. And I managed to rally a whole team like this, who all worked for me on fundraising, on PR, on everything. Because suddenly they thought, what you're coming with here, Christian, is a brilliant project, lots of values, we'd like to be part of it. But to have these people rally took time and perseverance before you reach kind of a tipping point where people say, okay, it's for real. I'm going to throw my lot in with it. And there's a great thing here. And you can see I'm sitting down here. Oh, there we go. I'm sitting down here. This is the day before we ship out the boat. Sun Haibin is not there because at this point in time we still hadn't got his visa for him to leave China. But I knew it would happen. because we were so committed and we were so pure in our thought and we had a goal. And I just knew all of these things would happen. But every month we had these things that could be showstoppers and would be showstoppers. But we were committed. And we knew this project is good, it will succeed, it deserves to succeed. Fast forward, and now we are in Tenerife. And being in Tenerife was great. Because you can imagine, when you're walking around in Hong Kong, on the street, you're the village idiot, right? He's the guy who's going to row the ocean. And then when you're here on the pier with all the other competitors, anyone walking down that pier who's not rowing an ocean is an idiot. The village idiot, right? So also, who you associate yourself with really makes a difference for how you feel about what you're doing. So we had different entrances from different countries, and we were actually the first entrance from Asia ever. And Sun Bin was the first Asian to attempt to row an ocean. And here we are preparing. You'll see here there was an all-female team. They came third. Imagine that. An all-female team coming third in a transatlantic rowing race. They beat us by 10 days. This is amazing, right? This is amazing. They actually had to go through marriage therapy. They were not married, but they had to go through marriage therapy to get on with each other because they were professional athletes. They wanted to win, but they really didn't like each other. Right? So, and when you're out at sea like this, it's actually really important whether you get on with your partner or not, because there are no rules. Right? If Sun Bin, trained killer from the PLA, had decided that he was going to slit my throat and throw me overboard, right? Who would know? When you're out in the big ocean, you're tired, you're worn down, you're big waves, you're uncomfortable, maybe you're scared. Your mind starts playing tricks with you. So if you can't keep the focus in the boat, you can go loopy. You had brothers where one, he just started swimming for shore, he had had enough, right? You had another one, UK Army. He woke up, his partner was sitting over him with a wrench in his hand, right? Right? You would rather kill first than being the second guy, right? So there's a lot of strain and so forth, but you really have to focus. Now, technically, we would drink 10 liters of water a day. So this water maker was really a mission-critical failure. This is, of course, before graphene was invented. Now you just have that in your pocket and you go across the ocean and you can drink water at any time. So this we had some problems with.
So that means we can fill we have two 10-liter buckets, and that's approximately what we'll be drinking a day. So basically, if you run the water maker for 4 or 5 hours, you should have plenty of water, and it tastes good.
It didn't taste good, but we solved it. Another thing, food. We would eat an enormous amount of food because 6,500 calories a day, that's about approximately 3 times more than what a normal person eats a day. But we would burn all of this. I lost 7 kilograms rowing across the Atlantic Ocean. It's a very good diet. If you want to lose weight, row an ocean. But it also meant we were eating constantly. And this is what it looks like. 90 days worth of food. So you have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then the weeks across there. And then the very last person to be lost at sea, he was lost the day before we left as an ocean rower. So this kind of brought it home to us that this is not all fun and games. There's a serious aspect to it as well. But we felt we had prepared well, and things should go well. If you look at the statistics of ocean rowing, everybody who has perished at sea, their boats have always been found. So we start on the 7th of October, and before we went out, we had made a plan. Plan the row and row the plan. And we had decided we would go south first and then west, because we should have better weather. And this is great, but as you can see, we're the only ones who think that. Everybody just heads straight west and we head south. And having this where we make a strategic choice to do different things, I tell you, it felt uncomfortable, right? Because you're leaving a small island and you know, okay, in 3,000 nautical miles, I can get back to shore. Everybody's heading that way and we're heading this way. Did we get it wrong? And we felt very bad for 21 days. And then we went down where we wanted to go west. And we had been falling in the rankings in the race. And then we started picking up. So we were vindicated after 21 days. But those 21 days were not nice. And what we had, humor is a big important thing of doing this. If you don't have humor, I think it would be very difficult to do this because it's stressful. You need a release valve. After 6 hours, we lost sight of the other boats. And then we started rowing. 2 hours on, 2 hours off, 2 hours on, 2 hours off. 24 hours a day for 56 days. So this meant that every 2 hours I would be outside rowing. And then when I was not rowing, I was resting, cooking, cleaning, repairing the boat, navigating. So you kind of go, it sounds very bad, but actually you get 2 full REM cycles of sleep, plus a little bit extra. And then, of course, sometimes you're very tired and sometimes less tired. Did we argue? Yes, we argued. You will argue, right? You argue with your wife, you argue with your friends, you argue with your colleagues. We were very lucky that we were 2 very different cultures. So we, before we went into the boat, expected to have a lot of issues. So therefore, we decided we will think about this up front and we will work through all the different scenarios. Will we give up? Yes or no? Under what circumstances will we give up? What can I tell the other guy? Right? Can I tell him to take a rest or not? Who decides? We had all this mapped out, which actually meant that when we went in the boat, we didn't argue about anything significant, but we argued about few cultural things that we couldn't change. This is unlike other people. You had a British pair, best friends, 2 journalists, one from the Times, the other one from the South China Morning Post. And they said, we've been best friends forever, we just go and do it. And they came out there, and one wanted to win, the other one wanted to have a leisurely race across. And they fell out so badly that the guy from the Times asked the guy from the Hong Kong paper to leave the boat. A safety vessel came, picked him up. The other guy continued for 2 weeks. Then he also couldn't continue. And then he asked for someone to come and save him, take him off the boat. And when the boat arrived, he found out that his former friend was on the boat. And then he said, "Thank you, I'm not getting on there." And then he had to wait another week before he would get off the boat when another vessel came. Right? We didn't have that because we expected we would be different. And that is something you should think about. Use time up front to think about what can go wrong, talk about it, different views. Don't take things for granted. And it's easier not to take things for granted because you are not the same culture. Right? So you can afford to say, okay, hey, I'm Chinese and you are Italian. Maybe should we sit down and think about this, because maybe even though superficially we seem to agree, let's just check and go down one level or more. And that really is conducive to better collective know-how sharing. We argued about 2 things. One was the Chinese are very polite. When they want to kind of make you see that they care about you, they will fuss. And Sun Bin will say, Christian, you look tired, go wash. Brush your teeth, go and have a sleep. And I go, Sun Bin, if I had wanted to row across the Atlantic Ocean with my mother, I would have chosen her. Please, And for him it was, when being Danes, Nordics, we don't want to be too enthusiastic about things. So I would say, Sun Bin, at this speed we will reach Barbados in 20 days. And then I think, maybe that I'll now attract a bad omen, if we are not hit by a big storm. And this, if we are not hit by a big storm, was difficult for Sun Bin. And this we didn't solve. But this was just those 2 things, exactly that area we couldn't solve. But that was a small thing, and we were aware of it, that this was our blind spots. Our clothes start wearing out very soon. and our hands start wearing out very soon. And this is actually not the worst. The worst was this. We developed the body wears down. It's not meant for this. So when we were rowing, we would get up after 2 hours, and after a few weeks, when we started rowing and we were grabbing the oars, the first 5 minutes just felt like the handles of the oars were covered in broken glass, and you had to pull that. And it was very, very painful until your hands got warm. At the end of the race, my hands were like this for 3 weeks. I couldn't stretch them. So think about the pain associated with that, and then multiply it by 10. This was an amazing... we had big problems with our seat. If we had had some Kone shock absorbers, perhaps we would have been better off, but we didn't. And basically, you sit on that rowing seat, you're always rowing 45 degrees backwards and forwards. You're always in motion, you're sweating, there's pressure, and your sit bone comes through the holes in the rowing seat. And we had tremendous pain. I was on painkillers for the last 3 weeks of this, but it was also a source of fun, because after 2 hours, you had basically recovered amazingly the speed with which your body could recover. Then you would go and you would sit down on your rowing station, and 2 things would happen. Either it would be okay, or it would be hell. And if it was hell, it was hell. Then you were just unlucky, except they would make the other one laugh a little bit, because you always looked funny when you had one of these hell experiences. And then you just had to row through it for 2 hours, and then hopefully the next time round, after you had your rest, you were luckier the next time round. So we actually, this is actually true to form. We were rowing naked because we got so many the friction from the clothes. So ocean rowing is well known. Row naked. It's better. So I'm probably one of the few people in the room who has been naked for 52 days in a row. But it's a great experience. Yeah. Of course, we had many beautiful things. Sunsets like this. Whales. We saw whales on a number of occasions. This was the most dramatic time we saw whales. We were rowing, and basically you row and you look out for rogue waves if it has been blowing. Sometimes you can have a rogue wave that comes. It doesn't happen often, but you like to see it when it comes. And you can tell it because it's white on the top. It's kind of breaking. Then you know, okay, now I have to watch out. And I saw this wave, and it was coming. We had some wind some days before, but the wind had died. And then I saw this wave, and it was white on top, but it wasn't. That was something strange. And then what you have is you have 7 pilot whales coming in this wave. And I'm rowing, and I'm looking up, and I see that's the wave, and it has 7 pilot whales in it. And you go, uh-huh. And then I stopped rowing. I don't know what, probably there's rules of the road of what you do when you meet whales at sea. But anyway, I don't know. I stopped rowing. And then the whales came, and I was going. And they went under my rowing boat very calmly and came out on the other side. And they must have thought, that was weird. So they stopped. And then they're looking at me, and I'm looking at them. And we have like this. That was weird. And then they continue, and I continue. So it's an amazing experience. Another time when we also had contact with the outside, this was less pleasant. This was actually at night. And the Atlantic Ocean is very big. But it also has the ships. A ship, when you're sitting close to the ocean floor, and when we were sitting, we were maybe half a meter above the ocean floor. So your dipping distance, how far you can see on the horizon, is not very much. So this means a ship can be on top of you within half an hour. So from not having seen it to having run you down half an hour. That's also one of the reasons why we rowed in shifts, 2 hours at a time. So we had a constant lookout. And also, you don't double your speed by rowing 2 people together. So it was also speed-wise, it made sense. But here we are, and this ship came up on us. And you can see it's not good. It was heading for us, and we thought it must be able to see us on the radar, and it couldn't. And then we take out the VHF radio and we say, ship in approximate position, blah, blah, blah. Please acknowledge yourself. Nothing happens. Nothing happens. Nothing. And it gets really close. And then suddenly we have music blaring out of the radio. And there's a guy who goes, whoa, 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 where are you? And we go, well, we're right in front of you. And he goes, I can't see you on the radar. And I said, well, look out your window. Oh, there you are. And now turn. And he turned. And then he stopped. There was a large luxury yacht. He stopped, and then we talked for a little while, and we were pretty shaken by this, right? And this was probably the low point of our trip. Then the next day, we wake up, and the hatch cover is broken. The back hatch cover is broken. So our watertight cabin is compromised. So that was bad, because then it's a safety thing. Then we want to make food, and the lighter is out of gas. And then we have a spare canister to refill the lighter. But because of the heat, it has all evaporated. And then we are like 2 weeks away from shore and no way to make food, warm food. And this, I have to say, that was the low point for me. And here is then an excellent demonstration of collective know-how in the most unusual circumstances. Because Sun Bin, he looked at the lighter and he goes, wait a minute. He went inside the cabin and he came out, and then he had taken the little ignition thing out of the lighter, which would make a spark. And you could use that spark then to light the gas. And how does Sun Bin know how to do this? Because when he was a kid, poor, growing up in Xinjiang, 4,000 kilometers away from the sea, this was the toy they had to play with. They found out that if they took this little ignition thing out of the lighter, it would make a spark and they could give each other electric shocks, and it was great fun. Right? So sometimes collective know-how comes in many funny shapes and forms and the most unexpected ways. Of course, we had bad weather. We haven't got anything from the most bad weather, because then we were inside, battled down, just both of us inside with a drift anchor out. And when we had the drift anchor out, you were lying in there, and you were like, it was like being put in a sack, hung from a tree, and then beaten by baseball bats. You could lie in there, and you could hear, here comes a big wave, and then boom, it would hit the cabin, and you would fly around inside the cabin, and it was awful. Then it was actually better being outside, because you could see the wave coming, and you're rowing, and then it would break over the boat. The boat would disappear, but it was self-draining. So you'd be sitting there in the middle of the Atlantic, and your boat was gone. And then it would self-drain, and you would come back out. And that was more comfortable. We had the worst weather right at the start, and actually, at that point in time, because you were very psychologically off balance, you were saying, what am I done doing this? And I actually had an out-of-body experience where we were so far out mentally that suddenly I was elevated up here and I was looking at myself rowing down there. And I could see, actually, it's not so bad. We can manage to do this. And then I came into my body again. And then for the rest of the trip, we were never in doubt that we were going to make it, or there was weather we couldn't handle. So this strange things happen to you. There's more between heaven and earth than meets the eye. Yeah, we came in at the end of a big tropical depression when we came to the Caribbean. So you can see this gives you an idea about the size of the waves. You can imagine them being that high. And as long as they're not wide on top, it's okay. But when they're wide on top, you have to watch out. And we would then have harness on so we wouldn't be thrown out of the boat. You can see just the force of a wave, right, which hit the boat. This was a steel stanchion at the side, broke. Here you have the support boat. It was a race, so there was a support boat. But because we took a southern route, we only saw the support boat after 52 days. And they only came to us because it was a race, and they should come and visit everybody in the race once. And then a few days later, we see them in Barbados, and they have been demasted, because at the very end, we came at the outside of a tropical hurricane. So we had some rough days at the end, And this is great. You can see up here, that's Barbados. So 56 days, and we are at Barbados. We are in time for my girlfriend's 30th birthday. Everything is good. And here, this is our toilet for the trip here. Anyway, so we say, fantastic. We stop. And then we start, we're going to look good, shave, shampoo, the whole lot. And then suddenly, on the horizon, maybe 100 yards away, 300 meters away, there's a competitor. We haven't seen any competitor for that time. And we are in 8th position. The Chinese in the room here, and David will know, 8 is a very lucky number. And we were representing China. We had to take the 8th position. And we are standing there naked with shampoo in our head, half shaved. And we are almost about to get overtaken by another team, which had come out of nowhere very fast. We could call in on satellite phone and get a position of where everybody was. And we thought we were comfortable. And then almost we're beaten there. So we jump back in the rowing seats and we roll like crazy. And we keep our 8th position by 21 minutes after a race of 3,000 nautical miles. So this is when we finish. What happens after this picture here, we get out of the boat and we fall over. Because we are so used to moving like this, 45 degrees backwards and forwards, we can't walk straight. It took us 3 or 4 days before we could walk straight after getting out. And then with the hands, it took 3 weeks. So what happened? We achieved all our goals. 56 days. I'm happy to say that my girlfriend back then is now my wife, and we have 2 kids, so I must have done something right. I came in 8th position. We're still friends to this day. We were talking about Sunai Bin coming to this event, but actually Sunai Bin still hasn't learned how to speak English. And we still talk about how important it is for Sunai Bin to learn to speak English. And he still promises to do it. And what about the fundraising? We raised $88,000 and we sent 2 students from mainland China to Atlantic College. And Sunai Bin, he became the first Asian and the first Chinese to row across an ocean. And he was nominated for Sportsman of the Year in China. And you have to think he's an amateur. And he's up there being nominated with all the Olympic and national team people. And I became the first Dane to row an ocean. Sunai Bin here, he became, in recorded history, discounting the Vikings, number 104 to row an ocean. And I'm sitting here, and I became, therefore, number 105 to row an ocean. And that takes me to the end of my... Oh, and then, of course, we went back to China, and Sunai Bin was celebrated as a national hero, and we were on all the front pages. Beijing Qingnianbao is the biggest circulation newspaper in China, and so forth. And now Sunai Bin is at Beijing Sports University, and he started their outside sports activity program, and he's a teacher there, and he's now trying to start his own race concept, which is called Capraton, kayak, bike, run. So it takes the swimming out of a triathlon, and we'll see how he goes with that. But that's our story, yeah. So this was how a bold thinking idea, some would say was crazy, led me to you here today to share with you my bold thinking and my collective know-how. So, thank you very much.